Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with the look at the market for the week ending July 20th, 2018. Uh, as usual, we'll bring up the disclaimer. I invite you to read it. It simply indicates that I'm not a professional investment advisor, and that you should seek professional advice from someone else. This is simply for educational purposes. So let's begin to look at some charts, beginning with the weekly chart of the S&P 500. Um, let's go back a bit. We had this ABCD triangle. We calculated a target of 3,094 when we subtracted the high from the low here, or rather the low from the high here, and added it on to this area here. We come up with a target of this, 3094. Well, we're far away from that. Right now we're at 2801. Notice that we had this bullish engulfing candle. Last week I mistakenly identified it as a bullish harami, but it's a bullish engulfing candle where the body of this candle totally engulfs this one. You can see that on this candle we closed just between the 9 and the 30, which is a good buy zone. Okay, and since that happened, the buy here turned out to be a good trigger. So we do have a bit of a gain here since that time, since we were at about 2750. Now we have a doji. Last week we had a doji, which means somewhat uncertainty in the market. So we surpassed the 2800 resistance level, and we closed just above it, 2801. Question becomes, do we find 2800 as support, or do we break back down again? If we come down, all is not lost, because it may simply mean that we come back down to the buy zone here between the 9 and the 30 once more. That's one possibility. The other possibility, of course, is, well, all hell breaks loose and we have a 10% or more correction. I'm betting on support here at 2800, and the market goes higher. Parabolic is below the most recent bar. The moving averages are expanding the distance between them, the 4, the 9, the 30. We have some room at the top between the price of the S&P and the 2 standard deviation of a Bollinger Band. So I believe this thing is going to go higher. MACD is in bullish territory. In fact, it trended up a bit here. RSI 12 is way above, somewhat above the 60% line, which is quite bullish, especially on the weekly chart. The data shows that that's when you get a nice bullish run. Williams percent R above 50%, and in fact it's quite a bit above it. And then the sum of the rate of change indicator is above 4%. So all in all, I think this weekly chart looks very bullish. I'll take this relative strength off because it's not instructive here. Let's take a look at the daily chart. The daily chart on the S&P shows us that the S&P rallied from this support at the 50-day moving average, went up pretty close to the upper Bollinger Band, came down between the 4 and the 9, closed there, rallied again, consolidated, had this nice bullish engulfing candle, and it's been consolidating a bit after this big bullish candle here. We are now between the 4 and the 9, and it's getting into this buy zone here again. So I'm anticipating that the market goes higher from here. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs and all that it implies, or they imply. So if that materializes in some sort of agreements, as everyone is saying, agreements between the US and China and the US and Europe, and etc., if all of these things fall in place, then that just lends further support for a bullish scenario. You can see that S&P, rather the RSI 12 is bullish, Williams percent R bullish, and The sum of the rate of change indicator is just hovering around the 4% line. It's at 3.86. So I'm bullish. I'm almost fully invested, and I'm expecting the market to go higher. Let's take a look at some individual charts. Well, maybe before we do that, we'll turn to some stock charts. So on this stockcharts.com chart, we've looked at these charts in the past, but we just revisit. Now, what we have here is a new high, new low index, and the new high, new low index is above zero. It trended up, pulled back a bit, and it's still above zero. So this is looking pretty good here, and took pretty bullish, to say, right? Let's take look at something else. Here's a weekly chart of the S&P 500, and it shows the impulse indicator, bars painted red, green, or blue. As we should know by now, those of you who've been looking at these videos for a while, when the bar is green, we are not allowed to go short. So we should be long the market. Okay, that's what we're allowed to do. Notice that we found support here at the 9 EMA, actually at the 30 EMA, and we found support earlier at the 50-day moving average, and now we are headed up. We're closing just above 2800 as we saw. If we look to the bottom of the chart here, we see that MACD is in bullish territory. The MACD lines, the moving averages, just crossed over. And if we look at Williams percentile, it looks as though it's poised to move above the 20% area. So this is looking pretty good to me. It's saying we should be long, if anything, long the market. Now we could look at a daily chart and see what that tells us. On the daily chart, oops, got these advertisements. On the daily chart, you see all these green bars. We hit that 2800 level, and we're finding support there, it seems, or hopefully. We have two blue bars in a row, Thursday and Friday. The blue bar indicates that we could go either long or short. Given that the weekly chart is green, a green bar, impulse is green, I wouldn't go short here at all. In fact, as I said, I'm pretty fully invested again. And when you look down below here, you'll see that on the daily chart, Williams percentile crossed above 20%. MACD is pretty bullish. On this stockcharts.com chart, we find the percentage of the S&P 100, percentage of stocks above their 200-day moving average. We've looked at it before, and you can see that that's trending up. And as long as we are between the 50 and 65% levels, we are allowed to be doing some trading. In other words, it's beneficial to do some trading. If you look at the MACD on this, you'll see that it's trending up. So this is another bullish scenario. So let's look at some individual stocks. Once again, I'll revert to the April 13, the 2018 shopping list of stocks that I sent you. We're going to look at some weekly charts, because the weekly chart is the chart we use for strategic decisions. A strategic decision is answering the question, should the stock be bought and held at this time? And on the weekly chart, then we see that Align Technology rode the upper Bollinger Band here and became somewhat overbought and pulled back, consolidated, found support at the 9 EMA, and is trending up again. So Align Technology continues to be a pretty good stock to own. We look at another one. This one is Microsoft. I own this, bought it back some time ago. You can see we had a nice bullish candle here, and since then we've trended up. We have a bit of a doji because we're hitting the upper Bollinger Band. So, but on the other hand, we have parabolic below the most recent bars. So I'm holding Microsoft, and of course it came in with very good earnings, and I like the way Microsoft is situated. You can see MACD in bullish territory, trending up. All these indicators looking very good. Another stock. Here's Apple. I own this again, you know. Apple hit the upper Bollinger Band, consolidated and had a little bit of a rally, but pulled back in the buy zone between the 9 and the 30. And this is where it started rallying again. You can see MACD, there is no divergence here. It's up still above the zero line, and it doesn't matter that much that it pulled back. The MACD histogram shortened up here, as long as you don't have a divergence, a bearish divergence. And you can see here that RSI 12 is bullish, and the other indicators here are very bullish. So I own this one and I like it. Here's MasterCard. And of course, this is one of the payment systems. I don't own this one, but I own a lot of Visa. You can see these stocks are having a nice uptrend on the weekly chart. It's the kind of thing you want to own for any length of for any period of time, not trading it back and forth. Well, look at how nicely this thing is trending up on a weekly chart. All the other indicators looking bullish here. Here's IDX Laboratories. IDEX Laboratories. I own this one again. I bought it when it pulled back into the buy zone here, close to the buy zone right here, and it's been trending up nicely again. These people provide diagnostic instruments, etc., for veterinarians, and the stock has been doing very well. I believe they declared earnings, if I'm not mistaken. So I own this one, and it looks very strong. Here's a weekly of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is one of those stocks that ran up a hell of a lot last year and the year before that. And the one negative is the fact that there are some problems with semiconductors now vis-a-vis China, etc. But it looks as though NVIDIA is setting up for another rally here, because you have a bullish engulfing candle, and you're right here in the buy zone between the 9 and 30. So it looks as though it's setting up for another rally from here. Notice that these other indicators here are looking pretty bullish, except for MACD that is in bearish territory. Here's the ETF on technology, XLK, once again doing very well. We had a target based on this triangle of 75.43. It's now at 72.55, so it's approaching that, and that would be close to the upper Bollinger Band. But it seems as though we have room to grow here, and that's a nice. I used to own a lot of this last year. I traded it, you know, owned it for a while, traded it, etc. But this looks like a good one to start looking at again, to own, you know. Here's Netflix. Netflix on this weekly chart just closed above the Bollinger Band a couple of times, and so it started to pull back. Of course, it came in with earnings that some people were disappointed with, but right now on this weekly chart, you have Netflix closing right spot there between the 9 and the 30, a buy zone. Watch for Netflix to be bought up in this area here. That's my expectation. Here's Visa. Won't spend much time on it. Just keeps chugging along. And I own quite a bit of it. Quite a few thousand shares. Here's Costco. Costco on the weekly chart. Hit the upper Bollinger Band, consolidated a bit, and is riding up again. Costco is very strong. Look at the other indicators here. Very strong. Like it a lot. Don't own it at this time. Can't own everything. Didn't look at CRISPR in a few weeks, and so what I like to do is take a look. What you have is, since it made this high here, and of course I wrote this up, I owned it in this area here, I made quite a few bucks on it, quite a nice gain. But then I sold it after that news came out about the FDA, etc. So I'm looking for an opportunity to buy it again. It's in the buy zone now, but I don't own it, and I'm not going to buy it right here. Here's Facebook, nice looking chart. I bought it again somewhere in here, so I own it again. And quickly, Etsy. Etsy had a nice run up here, consolidated, coming out with earnings first day in August, should pop again. Okay, folks, that's all we got for this week. Happy trading, profitable trading, I should say. And we'll try and do this again next week. Actually, I won't be around next week, so there won't be any. I might do it on the following Monday.